And we're live again.
Here we go.
Great to
Live
be
again.
back.
Great to be back.
Pablo, let's talk about greed. Let's talk about ambition and how recently this has come up in conversations with friends of ours. Greed versus ambition. They're powerful words.
Yes.
Why don't we open with the definition of it and then we go from there?
Okay.
So, greed, looking it up on Google, it's an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. So, that intense, selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. That's the definition of greed. And then ambition is a strong desire to do or achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work.
Okay.
So, we're at a party, and a friend mentions to us, our friend Omar mentions,
Our friend Omar.
he mentions that how he was in business with some people that were greedy. And what happened was he was sharing one story where there was a gentleman, and this was in the business world, that came from nothing, and he was making all of a sudden, 5 figures a month. So he's making 10 grand, 12 grand, 13,000 a month, and then he did something that was not ethical, right? Was not, and our friend Omar
Omar, yeah.
was saying that that had to do with greed. That because he came from nothing, he needed to find another way, the desire to make another 1,000 or 2,000, and even at the cost of doing something unethical. And that was his opinion on it, and I thought that was very powerful. And he was saying greed was the reason for that. So that impacted me and us, and I very much respect his opinion on that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but I was asking, is there a way to get there without being greedy, right? And one of the things that he was saying was that the desire will always be there, especially when you come from nothing, to want more. You're always going to want a better steak. You're always going to want a better house to live in, a better car to drive in. And that was greed.
It's very interesting. Um, Omar is a person that I value his opinions tremendously. And it derives from the fact that I have a tremendous respect for this man. Tremendous respect for this man. You know? Um, I like him. I care for him. So when he says something like that, I pay close attention to. We have a lot of conversations that I truly enjoy. Um, but I come from nothing. I come from nothing. When we left our country, we came to this country, we didn't have, what do they say, a pot to whatever in? Nothing. Um, and I'm always looking for the betterment somehow. I'm always trying to learn something, you know. Um, Never, I don't think I ever confronted the word, you know, greed in my travels to obtain more things, okay? Um, Ambition, not that either. I always knew that I was ambitious, but um, for me, it didn't have a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
It was the refugee mindset that you need to study, work hard, and you'll end up with something, that sacrifice. When Omar described it, it made a lot of sense in the way he was saying things. And what I am truly shocked about is the fact that from the moment that he had that conversation with us, then we shortly thereafter saw Mark, another good friend, and he, in front of us, we got together to give him a gift for Christmas, and he said, well, your father, and he points at me and he says, he's ambitious. Okay? And
But
you-
not greedy.
But not greedy.
He said that.
I know he did. And so, but when he said it, you and I looked at each other like, wow. And then shortly thereafter, our friend Mike, who's very close to us, we go and we have a cup of coffee to share in a, in a closing that we did. And what he talks about, the subject matter came up again.
Subject came up, and he said that they were cousins.
It's
That was
very interesting. He says, "Oh, greed and ambition are the same thing." And when you and I put a little bit of resistance to his opinion, he says, "Well, okay, fine. They're not the same thing, but you know what? They're cousins."
And his perspective was very interesting because he was, well, if we go to the second instance that we heard it, and this is within what, maybe a 2-week period?
A 2-week period. And then
Maybe
you went
less.
and you ordered pizza from where?
And I heard it again.
From the guy that's serving you the Blaze
My
pizza.
buddy at Blaze.
Your buddy at Blaze.
And he also said that greed was why he was very young, making a lot of money, and then because of greed, he mentioned it.
Let me say something real quick here.
Yes.
This is an idea for another podcast because Omar says it, and then shortly thereafter, we have 3 other people that mention it within a span of about 2 weeks or so. Would you agree? That's
Yes.
called synchronicity. So we could do an idea on what is exactly synchronicity. Now,
Well,
did we bring up the subject, or did those peoples bring it up on their own? I don't remember bringing it up with Mark. He just blurted it out, which caught me by surprise. Maybe with Mike,
we brought it up.
we brought it up.
I think that it's well, look, I was reading a book, and I was thinking about, I want to text my buddy Chris, happy Merry Christmas. I kid you not, when I put my book down an hour later, actually said 53 minutes later, I had a text from him wishing me Merry Christmas. So I thought of him while I was reading. I said, when I'm done reading where I want to get to with this book, I think I wanted to finish it. I'm going to text him. And I had a text from him. So there is something there. And
But that's not the subject matter today, but
Well,
some people call it synchronicity. We can
The
look into
universe
that. The universe,
putting
the
things
energy
together.
that gets released out there.
there's something there. You think about someone, they reach out to you. But going back to greed
versus ambition.
Greed, in the conversation with our friend Mike, well, let's go back to the second time we heard it, because we were together in all those instances. Okay, except the fourth one, I was by myself.
Correct.
But the second time we heard it with our friend Mark, we were making him an offer. We were making him an offer to buy his property. And he is very open to the conversation, and it's something that down the road he said, hey, yeah, down the road let's do something, possibly. But because he said, your dad, listen to him, right? He's ambitious, and he was saying it was a good thing.
Right.
But he's not greedy, because he's met a lot of people in his years in business, and he was trying to excuse me, he was trying to separate the two. And then with the third time we heard it, which was with our friend Mike, he was sharing an instance where at a very young age in his career,
That's correct.
he said that he was greedy in one instance that occurred. He said it was greed. It was greed, no matter how you cut it. It was greed. And so that was, and I respect Mike a lot, and I still do. But he recognized that in that instance, he made an offer that wasn't a fair offer, and he said the client called him out, and so he said it was greed. And we've all done things like that, it's not, but we can learn from that. And he said it'll never happen again. So he took that lesson and said it'll never happen again.
Well, when I think about Mike, I think about everything except the word greed.
Right.
He's such a giving individual, genuine, transparent, always doing what's the right thing even though it's maybe difficult. Okay. Uh, yeah, I mean, I picture Mike. The last thing that I picture is greed.
Of course.
But this event happened to him early
Early
on,
on.
and maybe he said never again. So
And that's a testament to his character, and he saw, hey, I made a mistake. We've all made mistakes. Um, have you ever, looking back, can you ever look back and say, I did something, and maybe greed was the cause of that?
I can, think back, and there's been a couple of instances where, yes, I could say that now with the wherewithal and the knowledge that I have about it, I would say that, yeah, greed took the better part of me, you know? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's something that if I could change, I would, It leaves you with some regret. It wasn't as harsh of a result as it was with Mike. Um, it was we went our separate ways, and it was no big deal, and it was not necessarily an encounter that was going to continue and develop into a relationship. But if you're looking at building relationships that are permanent and lasting and fair, the greed can't be there. The ambition can. Everybody's got to make money, or even in relationships. This could be taken into relationships. But yeah, of course, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect, and so yeah.
Can you share with us the that one partnership that you had where they took you? Um, we could call it greed, right? I mean,
I would say so. Yeah, this
what
was
happened there?
early on. I hooked up with a gentleman that knew a lot about real estate and about investing. And so we started buying property together. And I trusted him very, very much. And then one day I get a letter from one of our banks on one of our properties. And I opened it, and I'll never forget this, never forget this. The first sentence was, "Hello, how are you?" or something like that. And then, "We want to help you keep your home." And
Wow.
when I read that, I thought, oh, this is a mistake. And I crumbled it up and threw it away in the trash can. And then I remember feeling something about that I didn't finish reading that letter. That I didn't, I just threw it in the trash can. So a few hours later, I actually went to the trash can, pulled it out, and read it. And to my amazement, the loan numbers that they were citing on the letter were correct. And they were saying that we were behind like 6 months or 4 months, and they were getting ready to foreclose or initiate foreclosure procedure. And then I ended up checking on another property that we had together, and that was behind in payments also. And then on another one, and that was behind in payments. And so we had bought like 4 or 5 properties, and they were all delinquent, and
Wow.
I didn't know anything about it because the mail was being diverted to my partner, and he was taking control of all of that and stopping the mail from coming to me. I was devastated because I had borrowed money from my father-in-law to make these investments, and I had promised him X amount of money. And this is a long time ago. This is my beginnings, and it was terrible. And so I ended up resolving it. The gentleman that did this to me uh, was very sorry about it, but nevertheless, he still did it. So it was the end of the.
Why do you think he did it? I mean, obviously we can call it greed, but what do you think was going on there? Because in the long term, you guys could have done a lot better
Oh,
long term if you would have been able to keep those properties and keep
oh,
building that relationship. Why did he? Because he knew it was going to catch up.
yeah, he knew that sooner or later I would find out. Unfortunately, I found out later. And later on, I found out that he was calling the banks and postponing the foreclosure proceedings from beginning because he was promising to make the payments and never made the payments and blah blah blah. That's why we were 5 6 months. What was happening there is that him and his wife had many disagreements, and it was the beginning of forming to get divorced and get separated. And what he did was he took some of that money and went on vacation with his wife to Hawaii, bought her rings and gold necklaces and stuff like that with the money to wine and dine her and whatever. I think he was trying to save his marriage.
Wow.
And he spent our money that was supposed to be going to the mortgage payment on her and vacationing and this and that. And so I think that had a great deal to do with it. And he was trying to save his marriage. That's what he was trying to do. As I look back, he put me in a world of hurt, So, but I learned so much. And then it does something to you because you kind of get chipped away at the trust that you have in people. You just don't trust people. Yeah. Like that podcast that you sent me.
Dame Dash.
Yeah, Dame Dash. Somebody asked him, hey, do you have an issue with trust or something? No, I don't have an issue with trust. I just don't trust anybody.
Yeah, he said, do you
Plain
have
and simple.
Yeah, do you have trust issues?
You have trust issues? No, I don't have any issues. I just don't trust anybody.
Wow.
So, it didn't get to that point, but it definitely, he put me in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
And I was in my 20s. I would say I was like 28, 29 when that happened. So this is like, 30-something years ago. And I learned a lot, Mike. So, yeah, you need to be careful. I wonder if there's a way that you can spot someone that's potentially greedy,
yeah,
as opposed to someone that's potentially ambitious. I think that greed has a great deal of selfishness attached to it.
Yeah.
I didn't see the word selfishness in the ambition description.
No, it's just a dedication to better
hard
your
work.
situation with hard work. So, yeah, I mean, look, that's the thing about the vocabulary in any language. There's a definition, but everybody's got their interpretation of that definition. And I think that it's not a bad thing to be ambitious in life and to want to improve your situation and the situation of everybody around you, whether it's you, your family, and then it goes beyond that, because once you and your family are taken care of, if you have a giving spirit, you're going to want to take care of a community and beyond, right? It'll grow from there. But a greed is that when you have that selfish portion of it, you're not looking to better the people around you. You're looking to just better yourself. And it takes me back to Wall Street with Martin Sheen. No, Charlie Sheen, right? It was Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, I think. And Gecko. Gecko was...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Charlie Sheen was working for Gordon Gekko, which was the guy that married the lady I fell in love with.
Yeah.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
She married...
Douglas.
Not Michael.
Michael Douglas. Kirk Douglas was his father.
Michael Douglas.
So
Michael Douglas was Gordon Gekko, and there's that famous
saying that greed is good.
The speech, yeah, he's in front of everybody and he's saying greed is good. He had like this sinister character in Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
But I think that it's good also to have people around you to have a check and balance, because somebody can tell you, hey, you know what, this person or the move you're making, you be careful, that might be on the lines of, greed is such a powerful word.
Yes, it is.
And then on top of that, you added, if you're religious, to the seven deadly sins.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with me, there's another word that is extremely important, Mike.
Okay.
And that word is intent. What are your intentions?
Yeah.
You know? If your intentions are noble, but the act that you commit in that process ends up being negative, okay? I always trace the decision to the intentions. If the intentions were noble, if I know that this was something that was done, but it came out bad, but the intentions were noble,
Yeah.
I am more merciful in that sense. Okay?
Right.
Um,
You can still hurt people
You can
even though you have good intentions.
that is correct. But greed, in my mind, you have selfishness, and then you're doing something at the expense of others, I think. Okay? So a quick way of check and balancing yourself is always good to have people also, but yourself. If you're going to do something at the expense of another human being, if you put yourselves in the shoes of that other human being, how would you feel?
Right.
And
Sympathize.
yeah,
Empathize.
empathy. And that might change your perspective on the move you're going to make. Okay? And selfishness. Now, having said all of this, you got corporations that are trying to beat each other on, sales and bringing a product to the market and all that, and
At whatever cost.
at whatever cost, and it's brutal. You know, I think that the guy from Apple, Steve Jobs, I think that I'm not trying to judge or anything like that, but I think that he was brutal. I've read in his book. I haven't read the entire book, but I've read a lot of it in excerpts and commentaries on him, and I hear that he was just absolutely, in some ways and in some instances, ruthless. You had a product, it needed to come to fruition, and
Whatever it took.
whatever sacrifice it took, just get it done. I don't want to hear any nonsense. And
You hear the same thing about Bezos and Elon Musk.
yeah,
We've never seen these people, how they operate. So, a lot of it maybe is true and some of it maybe is not. It's like we were talking the other day about Napoleon Bonaparte and his height. He's known to be a little man, or he was known to be a little man. And then I said, hey, well, in real life, he wasn't that little. And we looked it up, and it ended up being that one of the British artists was portraying him in like these caricature-like images, and they created this image that he was little, and every time he was up against a British soldier, he was half the size, and they made him look funny and kind of a little deformed or off, and that was the way that. And as I read into that a little further, he was a normal height.
he was
just
5'6",
slightly shorter than, let's say, the average person at the time.
5'7", 5'8". He was 5'6".
But one of the things that I thought was really interesting when I looked it up was that, the power, first off, of creating images and the power of creating like this narrative, it's very powerful. But one of the things that Napoleon ended up saying was, he said that the gentleman, Gilray was the name of the artist, was more successful in damaging his reputation and the growth of what he was trying to accomplish, more successful than any one of his enemies.
Than any other army, yeah. Well, yeah, because if it sticks, then it's kind of like a stigma that you can't get rid of.
Amazing, huh?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It goes to show you the power of, the written word, or, like you say, caricatures, making fun of somebody. It's absolutely, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But I always look at the intent
Yes,
behind the
important.
person, and selfishness and doing something at the expense of others. That's what I associate that with greed.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, right now, even at this point in my life, I'm 63 years old, soon to be 64 soon. And so, you know, I'm still in the hustle. I still want to, you know, continue doing business and, you know, opening businesses. I'm looking at all kinds of stuff. We are looking at all kinds of stuff. Now, you're much younger, so someone would look at both of us and potentially think, well, he's younger, he's got his whole life ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he wants to improve and make a better life for himself. But I still want to improve and make a better life for myself too. So a lot of the thing, one gentleman, his name is Mark also, you know who he is. He says, well, no, I understand. Well, it comes to a point where what you like is the hunt. What you like is the excitement of, you know, the fishing, the hunting. And, you know, I really like that because he fit it to a T, because that's where I have the fun, you know, in looking for something, trying to negotiate with someone.
Yeah.
They're better negotiators than me. That challenges me to come up higher and see if I can put one over him or her or whatever.
Improve
and
your skills.
Yeah, prove your skills. You know, she got me this time, he got me that time. You know, I'm gonna learn from this. And so, you know, and before you know it, you're 90, 96, whatever it is that the good Lord allows you to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because to me, when I see somebody who's in their 70s, 80s, 90s, each person's different.
Correct.
But when I see that they're enjoying what they're doing, they're spending time with the people that they want to spend time with. Financially, they don't need to do what they're doing anymore, but it gives them purpose. It gives them a reason to get up, and
Right.
it's not just for the deal, because our friend Mike talks about deal junkies.
Uh-huh.
Remember, he
Yeah,
says
yeah,
these
yeah.
guys at this point, it's ruined their marriage, their family, their everything, but they just need to get a deal. That's like the what they need. They
Yeah.
need that, you know, almost like a drug. And so, when you look at somebody who does it because it's fulfilling to them, that, I think, why not? If you're helping people and you're doing something that you love, why ever stop?
I agree with that. Now, the comment you just made reminds me of Dan Pena. He's tough as nails.
Yeah.
I have respect for the man, tremendous. And you know, he's come from East LA, and you know, he lives in a castle in where, Scotland or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So I mean, the man is self-made millionaire, and he's gone through a lot. He was in the oil industry. I mean, he's got a resume that's tremendous, and I have a great deal of respect for him. He uses a lot of foul language,
Yeah.
which, you know, I don't think that's totally necessary. However, one thing that I don't agree with, and it's just my own personal experience, and he is, of course, tremendously successful, much more than, economically speaking, than me. I don't think I want to sacrifice everything for the sake of, you know, making all this money. Because look, even Grant Cardone, who is many times very abrasive, says, "Hey, how much money can you make?" You know, I mean, he's not doing it for the money anymore. He's doing it to stay in the game. He's become somewhat of a role model. He's teaching people how to do things. Even though some people say that some of the stuff that he's doing is not really good or whatever. But you know what? There's something to be said about these people that pulled themselves from a dark abyss,
Well,
and create something tremendous.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them. But
Both
if
of them,
if since you brought both of them up, Dan Pena openly admits he did not have a good relationship with his children when they were growing up, and he wasn't around. Cardone, on the other hand, seems to always have his family around.
Correct.
So, I think that's pretty cool. But we can wrap it up there, and I
Yeah.
think that was really, really cool, the comparison between the two.
Thank you.